What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we are here with Riki Rachtman. Great to be able to talk with you, man. Thank you for being here today.
Well, where isn't the quarantine zone? Isn't the world except for New Zealand is the quarantine zone,
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
right?
Yeah. But it's awesome to have you here. I got to say that, we're getting the ball premiering on Gimme Metal. This is really, I got to say, after over a year and a half of just one piece of bad news after another with tour cancellations and all these delays, this is some of we finally got some great news regarding this. So, how did this sort of come to be, the return of the ball in a way?
Well, as if you know how you've always wanted, and I keep on saying the ball coming back, but this is the ball. This isn't Headbangers Ball, but everybody's been saying, dude, when are you going to do a heavy metal show? When are you going to do a heavy music show? When are you going to do this? And you got to understand, I hear that every single day, and I've heard it for like 20 years. And because I don't have a manager or agent, and I'm not calling all the networks. Hi, I'm Riki Rachtman. Here's my press kit. It's out of sight, out of mind, and there's a couple people that they always use for everything. But I decided during this quarantine, I go, there's some things that I'm going to do. And when I set my mind to something, it's like by all means necessary. And I even went online one day. This is right after I was recovering from COVID. I went online and said, hey, if I don't do a heavy music show called The Ball this year, I will retire and quit everything. And I said, damn, I got to make it happen. And this is easy. This is honestly how easy it happened, and why I know that I'm working with some great people right now. Is I also work in NASCAR, and there was a car that was a Megadeth car that had Gimme Radio on the back of it, and I'm like, what's Gimme Radio? So I started researching it, and then I saw that they were going to try to launch some Gimme TV thing. I called this dude Tyler. Tyler, it's Riki Rachtman. I'd like to do a heavy music show. And he's like, okay. And I go, okay, can I send you the videos I want to put on the show? He's like, yeah, we'll see how many we get approved. Because, not every video we're not just stealing videos from YouTube. We want to make sure that this show stays on, that nobody's going to take it off, that nobody's going to say, oh, you weren't allowed to use that song or anything. So it's been nice because, working with Gimme Metal and Gimme Radio, they want to do this for the same reason I want to do it. And then they call me like, yeah, how do you feel about like Knotfest getting involved? I'm like, do it. I don't know what they're going to do, how they're involved, but they've been helping getting the word out. And, we're all just doing this. And the reason that we're doing this is truly out of a labor of love. We just want to do a show where we play some heavy music, and that's it. It's as simple as that.
And that's really what is needed more than ever. Like the way that people have been exposed to heavy music now has, with streaming services, but also some great metal outlets, such as Loudwire and Metal Injection and Revolver and so many other great. It really is
Right.
kind of like a coming full circle with this. You mentioned in a previous interview that the last time you were on Headbangers Ball was 95 or 97.
95.
95. Okay. So I never got
Yeah.
to see you on Headbangers Ball. I was 2 years old during the last yeah, sorry to
Ow.
sorry to bring that up. But like for people who may have not have gotten to see you in the Headbangers Ball days, is this gonna be in sort of like a similar for lack of better words, like choreography, or be kind of like a throwback in a way? Or are you gonna really use the modern way of demonstrating this to your advantage and bring something new to the table?
That's a good question. I think a lot of it is sort of like in an old school way. And I'll give you an example. Um, usually the way we are these days is if you want to watch a television series, you'll go watch the entire series in one day. You're not going to watch at this time. You'll watch it whenever you want. Some people might watch, Game of Thrones on a Saturday morning. Some people might watch it whatever. I wanted to do a show where everybody gets it on Saturday night at 9 o'clock Eastern, and they all sit around and watch it. And it's me going into heavy music videos. I don't have skulls and flames and crazy stuff behind me. I shot it with my phone. But and Gimme Metal honestly had no idea what I was gonna do. They had no idea. I just said, okay, I gave them a big list of videos. They told me some of the videos that they could get. Some of them, unfortunately, we just couldn't get, but we got a lot of great ones. and they're like, hey, we've got this new one from Zombie, and we've got which video from Obituary do you want to play? And, oh, we're gonna do this. I'm like, oh my god, this is like it's good. Like on Headbangers Ball, there were videos that not only I didn't like, but I don't think should have belonged on Headbangers Ball. That's not to say we shouldn't have had heavy and shouldn't have had some lighter stuff. We could have encompassed all that. But this show is not the Headbangers Ball. This show is going to be heavy music, and it's me in between the videos doing stupid stuff like I used to. I'm not a journalist. I'm not a reporter, even though I've been working in the business longer than most people. I'm nothing but a glorified fan. And if I have a guest on, we're goofing around, and there might even be a professional wrestler making an appearance. You never know.
Yeah, the sky is the limit. And this isn't going to be a one-time thing. This is going to be something that we're going to be able to be updated with on a regular basis, right?
I have no. As far as I know, it's a one-time thing. As far as I know, I am doing honestly, there has been no talk about a second episode. There's been no talk about doing this longer. If somebody calls me the next day and says, hey, Ricky, we want to do the ball. Are you game? I'm like, well, yeah, let's see if we can do it, this way. Because I'm the first person to say, the motivation for this thing isn't money, because there isn't any. The reason I wanted to do this was because I wanted to do this. And that's the same reason that, I was talking to the guys over at Gimme Metal, and I was like, okay, look, if I do this show for free, can we give it to everybody for free? I don't want anybody to have to pay for the show. And they're like, yeah, that's good. And then, when people see Gimme Metal, especially if you like heavy music, they got everything. They got shows with everybody. It's a good channel, but they're letting us do this for free. And if people like it and enough people watch it, how can we not do more shows? I mean, I'm not saying that I have a second show plan, because there's zero talk about it, but I'm also not saying I wouldn't do it. Wait, does that mean I'm not saying it? If it came up to do more shows, I'd like to, because there's a lot of videos that didn't get played, and because we didn't get them, or just because there wasn't enough time. I mean, if this show was 6 hours, it wouldn't have been enough time, but it's not.
Yeah. Well, it's great that it's coming back in the nick of time too, because the metal bars are back open here in New York City, so we could maybe try to
Oh,
screen.
good,
Yes.
good.
So
I
maybe,
didn't know that. What are they doing in New York? Like, what's the capacity?
right now it's 50% capacity. At least in New York City, I don't know if it's up, because it kind of, New York City has been different compared to upstate and everything like that. But yeah, maybe we could watch this while we're at Duff's or Lucky 13 or something like that.
Oh, say hey to everybody from that Duff's in Brooklyn. I
Yeah.
mean, that to me would be the place to watch it there, or any of those bars, to watch it there and just crank it up. And that's what I would like. And I promise you, if you like heavy music, you're gonna like the show.
And that's the best thing about it. And what's cool is, and I don't know if this was ever an issue from Headbangers Ball back in the day, but you can almost play, when you get access to it, you can almost play any video that you want or that you so choose, right? Like, I'd imagine that back in the day, you couldn't exactly put a lyric video to Fucked with a Knife by Cannibal Corpse up or something like that, right?
True, true. I didn't get to pick one video on Head. I picked one video on Headbangers Ball, and it was Motorhead. That's it. I never got to pick a video, but it was. I mean, they would still do some stuff that was, as much as we like to crap on MTV and say, oh, well, they played, Winger, and they played Poison. Yeah, well, they also played the Cro-Mags, and we also had Bad Brains on. So there's a lot of stuff that we did. It was just they were trying to gear to a huge market. I'm the first one to tell you that I always say the term heavy, and whenever I describe the ball, I say heavy music, because I'm not going to say it's a metal show, because there was already a show called That Metal Show, and this music is not the same type of music that played on That Metal Show. So that's why I don't say that this is a metal show. I say this is a heavy music show, and in no way am I saying anything bad about Eddie or any of the guys that do That Metal Show. I'm just saying that this is very different.
Yeah. And the term heavy is so subjective nowadays too. Like, I've had people ask me, "Oh, is the music you listen to heavy like Creed?" Like, they would think a band like Creed or Stained is like devil music. So like, the term heavy is so subjective. It's anything between, Poison and Morbid Angel.
True. And that's the problem. It's like I have had people that said, well, if you want this show to do well, you better make sure that you're playing, a lot of Winger and Steel Hard, because that's where all the fan base is. And I'm like, it's not that show. It's not like those aren't, that's not the type of music that I listen to. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just not that type of show. You don't go into the vegan restaurant and say, give me some pork ribs, and they say, that's not what we do. It's like, well, I want pork ribs. There's a lot of people that like pork ribs, but there's a lot of people that like softer stuff. This isn't that show. The Ball is not a soft show.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like, is there going to be like maybe a lot of old school death metal bands or hardcore bands on here, or do you think that maybe we could get some new school bands? I mean, a lot of great bands, and I don't think there's a better time for heavy music than in a time period when everybody's all pissed off anyway.
My answer to your question is yes.
Can't
I'll
spoil.
tell you what. Name three bands, and I'll tell you if any of them are going to be on the first show.
Gate Creeper.
No.
Uh,
Maybe we shouldn't do this game.
yeah, yeah, we could get in trouble. This is going to be uploaded by midnight. We can't spoil anything, right?
But there's some good bands. There's some bands that there's some really good bands, and there's some old stuff, and there's new stuff. There's one or two very very popular songs, and there's some stuff that you haven't heard, and there's new stuff, and it might be Anthrax video that you never would have guessed in a million years, and it might be some. I do some goofy stuff too, but I think the music is good. I'm proud of the show. I like it, and unfortunately, we had to cut a few videos because the show is we don't have that much time.
Yeah, it's like you almost wish you could just show everything, and I think it's cool that you're also going to have with the ball kind of like an interactive sort of thing where people are going to be able to chat with it. It's going to be kind of streamed live where people
Oh
could.
boy, I must be a glutton for punishment doing live chats during the show, but
That's how
yeah.
we do it nowadays, though. I mean, it's pretty funny actually. I gotta say, there's some pretty great humors whenever a band is doing like a live stream and they're reading the comments and stuff like that. It's pretty hilarious. It has an interactive format.
I like it. I mean, my thing is, if you don't like the show, fucking turn it off. I don't care,
Yeah.
but you're gonna like it. And maybe, I've said this before. People used to always tell me, oh yeah, you turn me on to this band or that band. I hope that there's some people from, I hate to say the word my generation, but I hope there's some people that watch the ball and say, wow, I wasn't really familiar with that band. That's awesome stuff, if I say on the ball, I like this band, it's because I like this band, and I'll say that because I like I mean, pretty much every band that we're playing on the show I like. And if you hear that noise, it's a parrot in the background. I apologize.
No, that's all good. It's all good. But what's cool is I think the generation thing. I mean, people hate that term, but in reality, it is kind of like being born in '93. I grew up with I was an emo kid growing up, so I grew up with
Right.
My Chemical Romance, Avenged
Oh, hold
Sevenfold.
on. Stop. I got to tell you, people give me such crap. I love that band.
My
I
Chemical
think that
Romance.
band is so great.
My
I
Chemical
get
Romance.
so much. None of my friends are into that band like I am. I think they're great.
Oh, that band is. I consider that band my generation's Queen, almost in a way. Like it.
Right. But they're not going to be played on the ball.
Okay. Oh, damn it.
But
But
they're good.
but like
No, they're not. No, they're not played on the ball. I will tell you that.
Mhm.
This is music to get into a pit by the whole show, pretty much. Yes, it is. That's what it would be.
Hmm. And like I feel like you're gonna turn like I feel like it's gonna work both ways. I think you're gonna introduce people more in your generation to newer bands, and it's gonna work the other way as well, like younger people into more older bands as well.
That's what I want to do. I want people, I want people to see a video from, Power Trip that they've never, and say like, oh my God, this sounds like some of the great thrash bands that I was listening to in the 90s. And, I want to find out more about Power Trip.
Yeah. Power Trip was one of those bands that really brought a lot of people together. Rest in peace to Riley. He was one of the first artists I interviewed on our channel, and he like what was interesting is like I remember Power Trip opening up for it was Lamb of God, Anthrax, and Death Heaven. People still weren't too sure who they were, and then like they just started taking off after they put out Nightmare Logic, and I saw all new school hardcore kids coming to the show, and then saw old school thrash bands. Like that was a band that brought together a lot of generations.
And that would be why that's the first video I'm playing on the ball.
Oh wow, that's a great way to remember it, and I think that
And it was all calculated. The first video was calculated and the last video was calculated. And I even, put a lot of thought into the order of the videos that are played, which these are all things that I never did on Headbangers Ball.
It almost seems like there's like an artistic form of curating involved in it, right? Like a
To
presentation.
me, there is, because, if you go into just heavy, 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 and then don't have something a little bit different, you're going to alienate. I mean, I know there are going to be some people that are bummed that it's not just like the 80s rock fest. And there might be somebody that's like, oh, why is he playing this song? This song was so big for this band. But there's one song that is the biggest song that we're playing on the show, but it's requested by a special guest, so that's why we're playing it.
You need to have, like, I mean, and no disrespect to all the bands that have, such a great legacy and everything like that. We have appreciation for them, but you also need to plug newer bands. To quote Pantera, like, the word of mouth is everything. You need to plug newer bands to get people on board. Pantera was a new band at one point. Guns N' Roses was a new band at one point, and the people
Right.
gravitating towards them and the people plugging them is what got them at the level they were. And I think that a lot of new bands could be getting that love with this as well.
Well, I think that the thing is that people were like, okay, what do we do? What is the ball? Like, if we go to a label and they're like, well, we know it's Ricky, we're not sure exactly what's going on. And if we do a second show, we know all the labels are going to want their bands on it, because before it's like, what is this? Who is this thing they're asking for videos? So I believe that, if enough people watch this show and make a statement and say they like it, we could do it more and open it up to an unsigned band, an old band from the 80s, and a band that, you know, from Finland, or what, just whatever. I think there's room for a lot of different genres.
Yeah, and it would be cool if, like, a lot of these, like, live stream performances that have been happening in the wake of this pandemic, that, like, maybe we could do like a episode dedicated to that, because some of these live stream performances is like they're gonna go down as historical moments in a time period of rock. Like, the live show will never go away as a result of technology. A live stream performance, I've always said, it's like porn on the radio. It's not always necessary if you don't need to do it, but like,
Right.
but like, these are going to be historical moments in the history of rock, to know, like, at a time where we couldn't go to shows. I think a great, like, retrospective to have, like, the Behemoth live stream performance combined with the Marty Freeman live stream performance combined with the Under
Code
Oath.
Orange.
Yep, the Code Orange, the Under Oath. Like, I think that would be like a really cool, like a retrospective of all the live stream performances. So when this ends, we look back at what kept us busy at that time. Just an idea.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, bands have had to think out of the box right now. If they want to get stuff out, they've got to think a little bit differently. They got to make themselves a little bit more accessible. They got to understand that, set up a show in your house, but be interactive. And I think we're getting some cool products, and we're seeing what it's like in different times. And I think it's also been the great leveler, because there's a lot of musicians that aren't working, and they're struggling like a lot of all of us. So it's interesting times for sure.
If there's anything that these times taught us, though, is that you can't kill the genre. Look how many bands have completely reinvented themselves with Twitch and with live stream to interact with their audience and watch live
Absolutely.
music come back with a vengeance after this. Yeah. And
Yeah, it's great. It's great because it kind of feels like it makes it feel like, I mean, I personally believe that we're sort of on the tail end of this thing, and things are starting to get better, and that's what I'm hoping. But I think that what we're seeing now is, like I said, about the great equalizer, that we've all been in this crappy boat for a while, and now our bands are still getting on playing and doing stuff, whether it's live chats, and they're making themselves more accessible than they might have been before.
I I read an article yesterday by it was like a real mainstream media outlet that, like, the music industry had a lot of advantages as a result of this spend, like, in terms of like streaming levels and all that. Like, the music industry kind of had some good advantages. I don't know what genre it was mainly catering towards, but you know.
I bought a lot of vinyl. I bought a lot of vinyl during the pandemic, and sat in on the floor listening to records. And when before it was, just you just listen to music in your car. And I think when you're listening to music at home, it's more of a personal thing. You tend to just put on the whole album and kind of get absorbed by it. And I think that we did that during this pandemic.
Yeah, and a lot of these albums are going to serve as the soundtrack, as what got us through this heavy
Yeah.
emotional state. Like, so many great albums have come out at this time, And I was saying that I think metal is going to be like the way that, we look back at World War II documentaries and that swing music was kind of like the documentary. I think heavy metal is going to be when they're watching documentaries on this pandemic in history class 100 years from now. Heavy metal is going to
I
be.
think it would probably be Drake.
No, I think
You
it's going
know,
to be I think it's going to be Dying Fetus or the new Cannibal Corpse album.
there you go.
Yeah. Like we can't be singing about partying during this time. There is no partying. You need gruesome death
Of
metal
course.
that talks about biological destruction. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Is there just
Thank you.
anything else with the ball that you would like to promote? Obviously, we have this streaming on Gimme Metal on the app March 27th, 9 p.m. Eastern time, 6 p.m. Pacific. Did I get that right?
You got that right. I own I I still own all the worldwide everything with the Cat House, and there's some crazy old Cat House Hollywood podcasts, and people can buy Cat House shirts at cathousehollywood.com. And if you like motorcycle racing, go to the American flat track races all over America because I'm at every one of them.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ricky. Everybody, we are here with Ricky Rachtman. Be sure to check out the ball streaming on the
Saturday. I'm
Gimme.
so excited. I'm seriously, I'm a little slow right now. I mean, I'm always a little slow, but I literally did not sleep because I've been thinking so much about this. I am so excited about it. When I did it on Headbangers Ball, I don't read scripts. And when, we turned my camera, which was actually my phone, and I started talking, it was very, I'm like, yes, like I was so happy that I was doing it. I mean, make no bones about it. The only reason I'm doing this is because I want to do it because it's going to be fun.
Yeah, it has to almost make you feel like nostalgic, like you're going back into the 90s a little bit,
Um,
right?
it does, and the fact that like talking to you and seeing people that are excited about it just makes you feel really good. And I think that this show is a lot more personal than the ball because we're shooting this whole thing ourselves. And I nobody is saying, okay, don't say this. I just shot it. I give it to Gimme Metal, and we'll see what happens. They haven't told me it's good or bad yet, so I assume everything's okay.
Yeah, and as somebody who never got to watch you on Headbangers Ball because I was too busy watching Sesame Street at as a kid at that time, this is going to be a great way to make up for lost time.
We are definitely gonna have some fun, and I like the idea of people going to bars or figure out how you get the Gimme Metal app on your phone, and then just figure out how to put it on your TV set. It's not that hard. I figured out how to do it, and just get your friends together and just play it loud and just have some fun.
Definitely. But thank you so much, everybody. We are here with Ricky Rachtman. Be sure to check out the ball on the Gimme Metal app March 27th. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We will see you next time.